Hey all, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at this. It's a cube. Well, an Energon cube? Cybertronic cassette. I know, it's a cat. It's a cat, right? This is the Studio Series Bumblebee movie Ravage, and as peculiar as he is, we're going to focus on everything to do with him in the latest GotBot True review. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it'll let you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All that in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you are in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring. Or, of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And this is Ravage. Now, I have him in his cube mode because I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Yes, we will do him in his cat mode, talk about that, and do the transformation to this. And I know it's called a Cybertronian cassette. And I get it. It fits nicely in the chest of the Bumblebee movie Soundwave. It's not the Soundwave for me, but that's fine. And I wasn't interested in this guy for the full asking price, but for $6 Canadian, yeah, why not? Big shout out to Maximal10 for kind of finding this and hooking me up with it. What I will note is this. One, putting these blasters in on the back, there's little tiny pegs. I'm going to say maybe 3mm, maybe even smaller. They're very tiny. I did attempt to show it really in the review, but it kind of went out of focus. It didn't really work out. So if you kind of see me sort of gloss over that, know that there are really on the back here 2 little peg holes that both of these blasters go into. They're his hip blasters, really, and they don't peg back in on the legs. They peg back in on, I guess, what would really be like around his tail, right? This was his like tummy blaster. Now it goes up on his back, and the little missile potty thing that was up on his back now goes down in his tummy. However, it does fold up into I'll say a serviceable cube. I wish there was more of a transformation. But the cat is pretty darn great. So without any further ado, and with those couple of little caveats, a little explanation out of the way, in case I gloss over it a little bit, how about we head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. So here's a perfect example of a Transformer that I never ever thought I was actually going to review, because I really haven't been in for the Bumblebee line of Studio Series. Not that there's anything wrong with them, it's just I didn't feel like I needed another Soundwave, and if I didn't need another Soundwave, because I have the Siege, and I have the Netflix, and I have the Shattered Glass, I didn't need the B Soundwave. Nothing wrong with it, I'm sure it's fine. I think it's supposed to turn into I think they call it like a hover ship. I don't think it turns into an anything. But when this guy came out here in Canada, in my neck of the woods, depending on where you got him, he was $16.99 to $18.99. I mean, $20 for this Ravage? I wasn't feeling it. But when you can find the dude for $6, well, you know what? Maybe it's worth picking up and taking a quick little look at. Of course, before we look at him, we're going to look at that packaging first. And the packaging is really your kind of standard fare packaging for Studio Series stuff. We can see Ravage down there, his face over here, his face up here, his whole body up here. And the same thing over on this side. On the back, of course, we have the product images and whatnot. You'll notice that in here I don't have anything because I took out the inside. This doesn't really come with a background display per se, but you can kind of fake it till you make it by way of the way he's packaged, sort of like this. I mean, yeah, it's not an official backdrop, it's just the inside of the packaging, and yes, it got the holes in it from where the little like twisty tie things are, you know, used to hold him in place, but like I suppose you could use it if you really wanted to. Our boy comes with 2 of these like hip rocket blaster things. Pretty sure I'm holding onto a 3mm peg. This tiny rectangular piece with some silver paint sits up behind his head. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be lights or missiles or what. I'm going to call it missile pods. And finally he comes with what can only be called a gut gun or a tummy cannon, whatever you wish to term it. And our pussycat boy comes with none other than instructions that show how he transforms into a nothing, really. And here's Ravage in his 12 grams of glory. All in, Ravage is only 12 grams of plastic. I mean, he's basically taking the role, as a core class, he's basically taking the role of what traditionally was Legends class. Traditional Legends class, I mean, was about 35 grams, so this is significantly smaller. This would be a mass more akin to something like Legion class, if you remember that from Transformers Prime. Now, the difference being that this has more parts count, more paint, and better articulation than Legion's class. But mass-wise, yeah, it's definitely smaller. I don't think that this is worth, you know, 20 bucks Canadian. I really don't, but, you know, 6 bucks Canadian, yeah, it's probably worth that. You can see him here next to the Siege version of Ravage, which is 7 grams of plastic. And the little HTB Toys Nanobot version of Ravage, just so you can see just how tiny the nanobots actually are. Of course, the Siege one came with Laserbeak, who's also about 7 or 8 grams, so not too long ago in the Siege line we would have gotten 2 Battle Masters, or sorry, 2 Micro Masters I suppose, 2 cassette boys, for, at the time, about $12.99 or so. This guy, at his cheapest, is $16.99, so I don't know. I think the value was a bit rough. Though, to be fair, I do give credit to the articulation and the parts count and the paint, right? I give credit where credit is due. But here you can get an idea of, like, the size overall. It's actually a decent sized Ravage. Like, it makes sense. Taking them out of it, we have Ravage right here with his iconic hip blasters on. The little piece up behind his head, I guess it kind of gives him, like, I don't know, hackles or something. I don't dig this tummy blaster thing being underneath. I think it looks ridiculous. I mean, I guess you had to try and include everything you could to sort of justify the price point as much as you could. So I appreciate it in that regard, but, like, looks ridiculous. Other than that, and I'm actually going to take that off for now. Other than that, like, it looks pretty darn good, like that Ravage. Nice head sculpt, the mouth opens and closes and stuff. So let's start giving some scores here. Very first score I want to give is for the look of the guy. I'm going to say that for the look of this Ravage, honestly, I'm going to give it a 10 because it looks like the movie. I'm sure if I looked at stills of the movie, this isn't quite right, but I'm going to give it a pass. I'm going to let it have a win. I'm going to give it a 10 and say, yeah, that looks like the Bumblebee movie Ravage. And I don't think, even if it's imperfect, I don't think anyone is going to mistake it as that particular Ravage. In terms of articulation, the back legs seem to be on ball joints at the hips. They don't go out a lot, but they go out enough. We have forward and backward. We have really a knee, and the ankle can tilt up and down. No ankle tilt or anything, like it goes forward and back, I guess I should have said. It doesn't tilt side to side or anything like that. The tail, it can go up and down as well. Again, no side to side. The head, it can go up and down. The jaw opens and closes. I think that's really neat. The front paws, they're also presumably on ball pegs here, and they can go forward and back. Again, we have like an elbow, I guess we'll call it, and the paws can go forward and back. Again, nothing to the side, and like he has a nice wide body, so like I dig that too, right? You can get a fair amount of dynamic poses, or like as much as I think you're going to need dynamic poses for Ravage. So I'm going to give it a little more outward movement of the legs. Maybe would be nice. Maybe make the ankles, instead of being pinned, maybe make them ball joints, although I think that would have opened up a can of worms otherwise. I think it's one of the better articulated Ravages that we've ever gotten. I'm going to give it a 9 for the articulation for what it is, because it's a difficult one to sort of measure in that regard. Anyway, so honestly we have a 10 and a 9. It's a 9.5 in terms of being a version of Ravage that you can put in dynamic poses, that looks pretty good, that has, you know, his hip cannons and stuff. I think it's kind of a success insofar as it's a Ravage, insofar as it's a cat. Then we get to the transformation. We're going to take the hip pieces off for now, along with the belly blaster. We're going to also, if I can get it out, yeah, we're going to pick that piece up off the top as well. Now, the transformation is not that hard. There are very small pegs that have to go into very tiny holes that I'm going to try and show sort of up close, but no promises it's going to work out. We'll get through this as best we can, even though he really doesn't turn into anything. They call it a Cybertronian cassette, but you'll see it's nothing, really. So, first things first, we're going to come underneath, and we just took the square, what I'm calling the lights, out of the top, and now they're going to go down, really, in the tummy underneath. We're going to bring the whole head down, and with the front paws kind of way up, we're going to deal with the back paws here. Now, there's a whole hip section in here, underneath this back, that needs to kind of come down, and it sort of flips up right there. Getting it up there is a bit of a nuisance though. Once that's done, then on this hinge back here, we fold the whole kind of back down, and we fold that tail up underneath. Okay, now we're going to have to try and fold up the legs to get them to peg in. I'm going to sort of try and show you where they peg in up a little bit closer if I can. Okay, so we're going to deal with the back legs first, and we're going to use this little peg hole here, and on the inside really of the ankle we have a, let's see if I can show the peg. So hard to try and do this. Right there. Right there we have the peg that'll go in, and when you fold it up, you're basically folding it up like this, where you bend here and you bend here, and the foot is gone in. You fold it up enough that you can put the peg in the peg hole so that the rear end of the guy looks like this. And as you can see, the back is now really technically like a cube, and the front paw will fold down around like this. But again, we have an even smaller peg and smaller peg hole that, again, I'm going to try and show you up close. But before we do that, let's kind of get the other things on that can go on here. So the belly blaster, which is now filled in, that area is now filled in with that little square light missile piece. Well, that means now that the peg hole on the top is open for us to be able to put this blaster in here. All of these pegs are real small. Then using the ones down here, not on his legs, but down here on the main body piece, we could take his hip blasters now, and they'll go in on the side here. So if we look squarely at the paw, you can see that there's a shallow peg hole right there where my finger is pointing that will go over a very small peg right there, and then the kind of foot piece will kind of bang up against this part of the leg. So really it folds up kind of like that, and you peg it in just by pushing it in. It actually lines up really elegantly so that in the end, boom, here we have Ravage in his Cybertronian cassette mode next to the Siege one in a more Earth cassette mode. So like the Earth cassette mode, fairly flat. It looks like a cassette. Whereas the Cybertronian cassette mode is really just like one big ugly block of nothing. He turns into nothing. Don't get me wrong. The transformation is actually quite simple, despite me trying to fiddle over it here on camera because it's so tiny. The two back legs, they do peg in. The two front legs, they do peg in. And all of the, I guess, accessories can go on. I don't think they can all go in Soundwave with the accessories on. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. However, one of these back here, I think it was this one over here, was a very snug, tight fit, and that's why I couldn't really get it in on camera, but you get the idea of how it's all supposed to go, right? This is one of those hard things, because I want to give the transformation honestly a 10. It's easy. However, what it turns into, it really isn't worth turning into, because it's a nothing. So in that regard, it's like a 1, right? Like, why did you even waste time converting into something when really you're not even transforming, you're just folding up, right? So overall, as a Ravage, I think it's a great Ravage. If this Bumblebee movie Soundwave is your Soundwave, well then yeah, it's great that this guy can become the cube and go in the chest. But at the end of the day, for the generic fan, for the everyday fan, I don't think that this is going to be their ideal Ravage. As a Ravage cat, guy's like a 9.5. It's a like tremendous, well-articulated, good-looking Ravage. As a overall Transformer, because the alt mode leaves a lot to be desired, it leaves a lot to be desired, if that makes sense. I like it, but I can really only kind of recommend it if you're either A, in for just the Ravage mode, or B, in for a version of Ravage to specifically go with that Bumblebee movie Soundwave. And to be fair, I think most people that would get this guy probably would get it explicitly to go with that Soundwave. It just so happens that in my case, I was able to hold out. I feel like I could get him for $6. Do I think he's worth 20? No. Do I think he's worth 6? Yeah. Even if I never ever transform him again, it's a great little Ravage for $6. And here we are, and here he is. So, in terms of his transformation, like, it works fine, so it would score fine, but what he turns into isn't worth turning into. Unless you have the Bumblebee movie Soundwave. If you have that, then yeah, you want this guy to fit in the chest, and that's the method that they do it, because Cybertronian hover ship cassette player thing, and Cybertronian cassette. I mean, I get it. It's they fold up into things because they have to transform. But I think the real strength of both Soundwave, if I'm being honest, and Ravage is in the robot mode, really, right? Great looking robots, both of them. Though I don't have that Soundwave, I've seen it, and I respect how good it actually looks. I definitely would not spend $20 on this, Canadian. I'm not sure what it is in the US. 10? 12? I'm not sure. $6 Canadian, which is about $4 US, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for less than $5 US, I think he's worth that. It's a great cat, really. It looks good, highly detailed, a fair amount of paint, fairly articulated for a cat, certainly of, core class, Legends class size. I think it's a decent size for a Ravage. I like the cat, I just don't like the cassette mode. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the strength is definitely in the alt mode. I could have done without, the strength is definitely in the robot mode. I personally could have done without the alt mode, but that's just me. Let me know what you think about Ravage. Do you think he succeeds all the way around? I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, please. Stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and especially don't forget that somehow, man, some way, each and every single solitary day, you right there, yeah, you do make a difference in the world, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way right here inside the videos.